So I have exactly the top of the hour, and I'll go ahead and get started. Well, first of all, as I like to do, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. When I got told a little while ago, we were going to bring back Matt chats for at least one more go around for the 4.1 content controller release. I got excited, so I'm happy to be doing this. I'm happy that everybody has joined. Welcome, and the today's topic obviously is something we've been really excited about for a long time. At long last, the Content Controller 4.1 release is here, and the purpose of today's talk is to go through some of those new features that we introduced and that the dev team and everyone here at Rusticy has been working hard on kind of behind the scenes to make this a reality. And so we're excited to demo it for you today. If you haven't met me, my name is Matt Bird. I'm a customer support specialist here at Rusticy Software. I work on the support team alongside Joe Donnelly and Michael Reinhardt. So a little bit about me. I'm coming up actually on almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in August, and man, how that time has flown by. It's hard to believe. I still feel like a newbie in some regards. Uh, as but I know I've been learning a ton, and got a great group of folks here, and you guys and our customers to learn from. Um, it's been been a whirlwind of a year. We welcomed our second child in October. Her name's Cece, so you can see a picture of us there taken back during Christmas time. So the Bird household is kind of a crazy place these days with a 2.5 year old and then a 6 month old. So they keep us really busy, but it's all been very joyful. And it's been fun to watch them grow up. They're almost growing up too fast, it seems like. And I don't know if I know a lot of y'all had probably been working with or maybe have communicated with Michael Reinhardt in the past. Um, I don't know if we're referring to him as our new support specialist here. Doesn't seem like he's new anymore because he's pretty well versed in supporting all things content controllers. So he's been doing a lot of our trainings, kind of our onboarding stuff, um, and has been known to get on a call to help troubleshoot things with me and Joe on tickets. So we're so happy to have him here. And he may be kind of interjecting here towards the end to help me with questions at the end of this talk. So obviously, what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to cover some of the major features that we're introducing here in Content Controller 4.1. And these are things that have been specifically asked for, some ideas that we've been noodling over for a long time. And like I said before, we're really excited to make these a reality. And so I'll probably, obviously, we're going to kind of do a brief demo of all these things next as well. So we'll kind of show you what these look like within a new version of content controllers. So one of the features is called custom course IDs or custom IDs. I say course IDs; they can be applied to accounts as well. But in the past, and I'll be doing a lot of this too. I'm sort of make comparisons to how you're used to doing things and how things might look now that we've introduced these new features. So in the past, whenever you've created an account, you've brought in content, or you've created an equivalent or a bundle, Content Controller will automatically assign kind of an arbitrary ID, a numeric ID or identifier for that piece of content or that account, whatever you're working with. Custom IDs allow you to customize this. And so we've got a number of folks that maybe they have their own organizational techniques. They have their own content libraries that they've got internally that they need to get into Content Controller. And they have their own ways of identifying these things. And so what custom IDs do is they allow you to match up that content item with any identifier that you may already have in place. Because in the past, maybe you've had to do some organizational tasks for matching these. Okay, this is ID 1234 in Content Controller, but it's ABC 123 in our system. And so we're hoping to kind of remove that step of mapping your IDs to what is in Content Controller. And so what I'll be demoing is how they work, what they look like, um, and things like that. And then we're also going to talk about another feature that we're really excited about, which is Content Portal. We'll be demoing what it looks like from setting up, getting started with it within Content Controller, and then what it looks like for your end user or the person you'll be giving access to Content Portal. We'll go over things like branding, activating Content Portal, how to give access and manage that access, and what it looks like for your Content Portal user. And so, yeah, those two things are really kind of the major facets of the 4.1 release. And I was talking about custom IDs earlier. These apply to accounts, content, equivalents, or bundles. Basically, anything within Content Controller that has its own ID. If you're used to working with the API, you're probably very familiar with the numeric IDs that we already use. A lot of times you would be maybe performing a workflow where you're getting these IDs. Say, for instance, a list of accounts, and then you're performing some action on them. So you're passing those IDs into another endpoint that does something with the account. Um, and then being able to modify the custom IDs to match your own organizational structure, we think is really going to help. And then obviously, and as I will kind of allude to this fact throughout the talk here, but if you need any help with any of this stuff, myself, and Michael and Joe are standing by to help you out with this kind of thing. Um, and so, yeah, I'll go through how to change out these custom course IDs or custom IDs within the Content Controller UI. And then I'll give a brief example of how to change them out through the API using Postman. And then again, talking a little bit more about Content Portal. We've got some nice screenshots for how this looks, and I'll be demoing how this looks as well. Um, let's start with a loose or like a high level definition for what Content Portal is. Um, Kind of in the old days, you would have somebody that had access to an account within Content Controller. They would need to get into that account, go select certain content items that they wanted to share through a dispatching standard that you've chosen. That dispatching standard appears in that drop down list, and you would create your dispatch package and you would share it out either through links or through a content proxy that you just downloaded straight to your machine. At that point, it was kind of up to you for how to that to the person that would be uploading it to the LMS. Sometimes you'd be sharing links. Sometimes you'd be sharing those output dispatch packages themselves. Um, and you can still do that. It is important to note that none of this old functionality has gone away if you're still using it. But what Content Portal does is it hopefully helps you eliminate some of the hassle for that. And so what we're doing is we're surfacing a web page that your customers, your LMS admins, those you want access to this content, can log into, and then they can go sort of quote unquote go shopping for content there. They'll be given sort of a window into that account's content library, and will be able to pick and choose what they need to then be able to immediately upload that to a third-party LMS. Um, each account can have its own portal, so you can set this up differently for different accounts, and you can also kind of manage the standards that are available for upload to the third party LMS. We also offer opportunities to style that page. So you can see here in the little screenshot on the right, um, we kind of made a customized logo. You can also customize the look and feel through colors. Whether you want to match that branding to um, your company and the way that you want it to look and feel, or something that is unique to your client, it's really up to you. And we're doing this kind of through the UI. You can kind of pick your colors there. So we're not actually doing customized CSS here. And then you control who has access to this portal page. This portal page you'll be given be able to give a list of users through email addresses that you want to have access. So if it's only one or two people per account, you can certainly customize it that way. And obviously, as always, and as with past Matt chats, we've got a list of resources here to help you out along the way. We've updated our user guide and our API documentation to reflect these changes now that Content Controller 4.1 is available. And so each of these links can certainly help you. And then you can, that little link there, at the bottom right that says bookmark this page, that can act as a one-stop shop for all of these content controller resources. And then obviously, I'll repeat this until I'm blue in the face, but and never hesitate to reach out to us in support. We're always glad to help if you want to ask questions through a support ticket, or if you want to schedule a call for maybe your own demo or something like that. Do reach out to us. Michael, myself, and Joe are always happy to help with getting you going on this and helping you make the most of these new features that we're really excited about. So this is going to bring me to the demo portion of the presentation. So I'm going to kind of switch gears here. And I'm going to give the folks that are working hard behind the scenes to a little bit of a pause to kind of switch here. Also, and we mentioned we're going to save questions to the end, like we've done in past Matt Chats formats. We hope we get a lot of good questions, and Michael's going to be helping me out with those. So we're going to allot a few extra minutes towards the end of the presentation here to answer questions as well. So do feel free to ask those here, and we will answer them as we're able to. Okay, so without further ado, here I'm going to switch over and swap over to my content controller page. So I'm running on my Mbird content controller instance a new version, the content controller 4.1. And so the first thing that I'm going to demonstrate here is sort of getting started with Content Portal and what all of that looks like. So as we mentioned before, Content Portal is configured at the account level. You can set up different portals for different accounts. So I'm going to navigate over to one of my accounts here, the Matt Chats portal example. And all of this and this account details page or this little dashboard will probably look normal to you. So I've got a number of courses that I've shared out of my global content pool with my account library. I've set up licensing as I normally would. I'm using this as an example, as a limit by account example. And everything sort of looks as you would expect it to, or probably what you're used to. But what you may have already noticed is that we've got a new button up here that pertains to a content portal. Um, and I want to do a brief pause here to kind of illustrate what your current workflow might look like now, and what the difference would be when working through a content portal workflow. So typically, you navigate to your account's content pool. You got a number of content items, and you would come in here and select that content item. Obviously, we give you the opportunity to test it, um, but you would check this box. For example, if I wanted to share out the sports package that I've organized into this folder. So in this sports folder at the account level, I've got a golf course, a tennis course, an overview, and then a course about water polo. And let's say I wanted to share out the sort of the entire curriculum in like a zip of zips package. I would just click on this box. I would click on share, and then I would choose my standard from here. At this point, you may be very familiar with. You've got two options. You can either download the Swarm 1.2 dispatch package to your machine, or you can copy a link to it. And this is really where the difference sort of comes into play. And again, I want to repeat on the fact that this functionality isn't going away. Didn't want to cause or inspire any sort of panic there. This will still function the same if you need to utilize this workflow. But we're hoping to add Content Portal into your tool belt to make this portion of the process a little bit easier. And so what Content Portal does is this will allow you to give a access to a page for certain users, and they can come in and get basically a view of what's in this account and pull that content down themselves, much like you would do. So the part of the process that we're sort of cutting out here is having to share those links, or having to maybe download those proxy packages in a zip of zips format, and then send them through an email or maybe a file sharing system or something like that. I know by default our links are good for 14 days. So if maybe you've sent along a link and the person on the other end's really busy and they haven't had a chance to download that stuff and put it in their LMS. And then they've got, oh, your dispatch packages have expired. Can you send that link again? So there's a couple of layers of back and forth that go on. With Content Portal, they're just going to access that page and they'll see what's available to that account, and they can grab what they need right then and there. So without further ado, I'm going to kind of head on to where the difference is. and in Content Portal. So you got a number of settings here listed along the left-hand panel. I'll go through each of these. But the first thing is your portal URL. This is what you're going to share with the person that you want access this portal page. Again, and I want to kind of make the clarification that you're not giving them access to Content Controller. You're not, they're not signing into your Content Controller instance. They don't have access to anything like that. They can just pull dispatch packages. So you've got your portal URL. This little string at the end is randomly generated. So you can change this if you need to. There's a couple of reasons that you might want to change this. Let's say maybe you made a mistake in setting things up to begin with, and you sort of want to refresh that. Something that we kind of jokingly refer to as well is that since this is randomly generated, there is a very, very, very small chance that this could represent something that you wouldn't want to put in front of someone. This could be something inappropriate or something like that. If that's the case, or if that happens, you can simply reset the portal URL or generate a new one. We'll warn you about this, saying that this may disrupt access. But do you want to go ahead and proceed? I'll say save, and then you can see a new random string has been generated. And then we give you the option to copy that URL to your clipboard so you can send it along to whoever needs it. The next is something to name your portal. So I'm just going to call this the Matt Chats uh, Content Portal. Welcome. And then down here, you can also include a portal message. And so what we typically maybe would recommend for this portal message is maybe implementing an email address for somebody to reach out to if they need help with this. I've seen an example where they give instructions on what to do, what Content Portal is. We've got some nice formatting options so you can make this message look the way that you want it to. And so I'm just going to type in a brief welcome message for demo purposes. I'll say, welcome to Content Portal. If you need help, um, something along those lines. And we give you the option to preview it as well if you want to. So moving on, down here you have a set of standards. And these are, if you remember me kind of showing you the old way of doing things, that little drop down, that menu that you choose when you're defining your dispatch package standard. I'll use maybe you're working with a third party LMS, for example, that only supports SCORM 1.2. All of your content here in Content Controller is SCORM 2004 third or fourth edition or another standard. Again, that kind of harkens back to the classic Content Controller use case, and that we're helping you get content out to a third party system in a standard that it supports. So you can choose any number of these standards as an option for the Content Portal user to choose when they're selecting content to upload or to put into their third-party LMS. Um, a lot of times, one of the maybe a best practice would be to, if you have a particular account that is only working with one dispatch standard, and I'll continue to use SCORM 1.2 as an example. It might be best just to select the SCORM 1.2 option and just keep it that way to limit confusion. If there's no reason for them to ever, for example, be uploading an AICC dispatch package to that LMS, maybe keeping that off of the list of options for them can help potentially limit confusion down the road. But just for demo purposes, just to show that we do give them a choice, I'm going to select SCORM 1.2 and SCORM 2004 third edition. And these will be available as dispatch package standards for the portal user when they go to select that content. Um, the next section says display licensing. You can optionally choose to display any licensing that applies to this account. So you may remember that this account is set up as a limit by account. I have kind of a quote unquote dummy license that is applied to the entire account. If I want to display that information or give the Content Portal user some insight or information into where they are with respect to getting close to their account or license limits, I can display that licensing limit on the Content Portal page. So that can be useful. Typically, we'd recommend displaying this if you want to be transparent about where they're at with their licensing. We also give you the option to display tags. So if right now, if you were to select an item within the content portal, you could see what it's tagged with. Again, just a reminder, tags are sort of an organizational feature within Content Controller. And so you can choose to display those or keep those hidden. It's really up to you. And then the next option will be to check this enable content portal box. This will activate content portal. It'll make this URL available. And then you're going to give this to the list of users that you've configured here in a later step. And they'll be able to get started. They'll be able to sign in and go and grab content when they need it. So I'm going to choose to save this option. And then the next kind of content set of settings here, the content portal settings, fall under appearance. And so you can certainly customize this to your heart's content to make this to apply certain blanding branding or logos. You can apply certain color schemas. Yeah. I'm just going to keep the defaults for demo purposes, but you can really kind of play with the look and feel of your content portal page to make it as user friendly as possible, to make it easy on the eyes, to apply branding, whether that be your own branding or branding that is specific to the person that's going to be accessing this content portal. So and we're also doing this through kind of a pick and choose menu rather than having to fiddle with CSS settings. So that's kind of another nice feature. So you can choose your colors here. You can choose a logo or an image. And then once I've got the settings the way that I like them, I can choose to save that. Finally, last on this list is this list of approved users. And so this is kind of your access control for folks that are going to access this content portal site. And so let's say I've got one or two, maybe three people that need to get a glimpse into this account's content offering section. I'm going to add that list of users here through their name and email address. And so when I click on add here, I'm going to go ahead and add myself and my email address. And then I'll say create. And it'll show when they last logged in as well. And then, just for demo purposes, to make this look a little bit more realistic, I'll go ahead and add in Michael as well. He is probably snickering behind the scenes saying he misspelled it last time. I hope he spells it right this time. So there we go. Now I've got two users that are going to have access to this content portal page. Another bit of clarification I wanted to add at this point was as soon as you add these users, they're not going to get an email prompt just yet. And the next step of the process is basically sharing that content portal URL with them. And then when they go to actually access this, we're going to check to see if they're, basically on the allow list first before we give them access. And we do that through a short-lived access code. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. So I'm done setting everything up. I'm going to check my general settings one last time. I've got my portal URL. I've got my name and my welcome message configured the way that I want it to. I've chosen to I've chosen to use SCORM 1.2 or 2004 third edition as my dispatch standards there. I do want to display licensing. If they want to see tags on the content portal page, I've chosen to display that as well. And obviously, I've chosen to enable it. I've also got my appearance configured the way that I would like with my color schemes and everything like that with my logo. And then I've kind of curated and have finalized my list of approved users. So that's about it from the perspective of the content controller side of things. Now we're going to switch over into what this would look like for a content portal user. That is one of these approved users here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this portal URL. I'll open up a new browser window. And I will, here I am. I've been given access to this portal URL, and I'm being prompted now to enter an email address. This is kind of where we're checking that approved users list. So I'm going to enter my own email address. And how these users get access to the content portal is through, I mentioned this before, but a short-lived access code. And when go ahead and select the send access code, we're going to check and make sure that that user is on the approved list. If it is, we're going to go ahead and send them that access code. And give me just a second to get things the way that I want to right here. Well, I've got a success message, so I'm going to actually pull this message out of my inbox and show you what this looks like. One moment, please. Sorry about that. I had to actually switch over from using a mouse, but here's what that message will look like. It says, "Hi Matthew, here's a one-time password for signing into your content portal account." So you can see it's 8 digits separated by a dash, and this is randomized. So I'm going to copy this and paste this in down here. If you need another code, obviously you can prompt Content Controller to resend it, and I'll sign in. And awesome, I'm now landed on my content portal page. So you can see the little welcome message that I've configured here. Welcome to Content Portal. There's my contact information in case I need help. I've chosen to display that licensing information. So I had set a learner limit of 300, and this expires next year. So I can see that information as well. And then I'm also been given a glimpse or a window into what this account's content pool looks like. So you can see it's a mirror image here. I've got a couple of bundles sitting here. I've got an equivalent. I've got a few folders. I've got my sports package, a welcome package, a folder full of equivalents, and I can see those things. And then here's a standalone course for a content controller overview. So I can also navigate through the folders by clicking on this and selecting. There's a little folder details panel. If I select view content, there's everything in my sports folder. So this, if as a content portal user, if I just want to pick one or two of these courses and go on from there to get going and uploading those to my third-party LMS to put them in front of learners, I can do that from here. And if I select a course here, I can also see maybe what it's tagged with. So the golf course is tagged with a sports tag. Um, this little documentation PDF, I've got the documentation tag on there, so it's more of an about or metadata type course. It's also tagged with sports, so I can see that information from here as well. And then if I navigate back, I can kind of pick and choose what other content items that I like. And so this page will update as you update your account's content library. This is also another good opportunity to present maybe a bit more of a word of caution here. It's a good idea to, before you set up a content portal, just to make sure that your account's content pool in Content Controller looks the way that you want it to, because you are going to be surfacing this in front of folks that have access to your content portal. So if you've kind of got an organizational mess in there, maybe you've got a testing account that you sort of been messing around in, um, and you don't necessarily want folks, an LMS administrator or your contacts to see that. It's a good idea to kind of maybe go in through and reorganize things, before that happens, because this will mirror what the account looks like at the time that the person signs into the content portal page. And so I actually kind of ran into this in rehearsal. I was using an account that I was doing some testing in, and I couldn't make heads or tails of what was where because I was using a kind of a messy testing account. And so it is a good idea to do maybe a little bit of housekeeping. This is where content organization at the account level kind of comes into play. So before you stand up a content portal page, it's a good idea to make sure that your account's content library looks the way that you would like it to, and looks the way that would be intuitive to your users, or to your folks that would be accessing it. So just to kind of finish up here, I did want to show you what it looks like just to download this stuff. So let's say within this folder here, I've got this welcome package. I've got a few courses in here. I've got the getting started course, a welcome and introduction, and then a getting assistance if you need it course. Um, let's say I want to pull this down and get going with it, working with it in my third party LMS. So I'm going to click this checkbox. And then here's the list of standards, that I chose to make available from the content controller side of things. If I want to dispatch as 2004 third edition, I can choose this one. But the default here is at SCORM 1.2. And then if I've chosen other standards with those checkboxes on the content controller settings page, those would all appear under this dropdown. So for now, I'm just going to do a SCORM 1.2 dispatch package. I'm going to choose to download that. And here you go. This is yet another zip of zips. I'll bring this over here. And if I expand that, you can see there's my getting assistance, getting started, and my welcome and introduction course. So it is the same output in that it is a flattened zip of zips, like you're used to or maybe accustomed to working with as a dispatch output from Content Controller. We've got some. I know we've got some items on the roadmap to be working on to maybe match up folder structure. But again, if you're accustomed to working with a zip of zips, if you're folks that get content from you or are accustomed to working with those are going to stay the same as it relates to Content Portal. And so yeah, that's pretty much all that I talk about. Kind of have to demo on the Content Portal side of things. Once again, if you have any questions near the end of this chat, we'll try to address a few of those. And then always feel free to reach out through our support address or through Basecamp if you're still working in Basecamp to ask us questions there. You also may notice the only option right now for the gear icon is to sign out. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out of my Content Portal page. And there I am. Once again, I've got kind of my title and my welcome message. And so that's just kind of a quick and easy overview of Content Portal. So the next thing is to kind of go over your customized IDs. And so another thing, if you were to get upgraded to Content Controller 4.1 that you may notice immediately off the bat is in my list of content items here, you can see I've got a new column in here representing a course ID. Um, the arbitrary ones that we normally use, ones that you're accustomed or used to using, are listed here. But you can change these either through the API or through the UI. And I'm going to try to do my best to demonstrate both methods of changing these. And you can also change a course ID for content on its way in. So let's say you're importing a piece of content and you want to use your own course identifier for that rather than, let's say, 1188. It's maybe not intuitive what 1188 necessarily means unless you send a GET request through the API. And so I'll go through kind of the example of importing a piece of content and kind of show you the difference of what that looks like there. So I'm going to click on the add button. This workflow is something that you guys may all be used to. So I'm going to choose a course. And this new option for automatically generate an ID will show up. If you keep it checked, we're going to keep using maybe the same methodology for identifying courses that we always have. So if you're not using customized IDs, it's totally fine to keep this checked. You shouldn't notice any difference. I'm going to go ahead and choose a file. I'll choose Golf V1 here. Actually, it might be a good idea to actually prep here and say, I want to enter my own custom course ID. So on my own system, I've got a unique identifier for my course that I want it to match. I want Content Controller to use that identifier instead of the arbitrary one it was using before. So I'm going to use a really kind of simple example. So I'm going to call this golf underscore 123 ABC. So this is what will be applied as the course ID once golf goes through the import routine. So now I will choose the file. I'll select my zip package as I'm normally used to doing, and I'll import the course. And there's my typical warning because I've got this golf course in, maybe 100 other places, but there it is. And there's the unique identifier that I'm used to seeing with that. And so I can pass that identifier in through an API request. Usually, if you're wanting to, let's say you're wanting to get course details through a GET request about the newly imported golf course. Instead of using, say, 1188, which is what Content Controller would have normally used, I can use golf underscore 123 ABC. I've got my own identifier, and that works with the API. And so, you know, being able to get that using our own identifiers can be really big and a really helpful for certain situations once you've got those content items mapped to the way that you want it to. Um, I can also change these identifiers through the UI as well. This is done in my content section. And so in order to change the identifier, this also looks, it's just a brief addition to the way things usually function. So if I were to go to this edit button, there's my course ID. I can choose something else. Let's say maybe I had a typo. I wanted to say golf 123 ABCD, and I want to update that. Or let's say, you know what, I'm maybe, customized IDs aren't for me right now. I can choose to automatically generate that ID and use the old one that Content Controller would have used if I wasn't using a custom identifier. So if I say replace, I'll say update, and there we go. There's 1189, and that's what it would have used beforehand. So kind of like with other things, you're not necessarily married to or committed to what you're using ahead of time. This could always be changed in place. And so, do be aware of that. And then you can also change these through the API. So I'm going to quickly demo how to do that. Let's say this PDF, this content controller overview PDF. I've got, maybe my custom identifier for its PDF 123. That's what I want to use. But it's already listed here as 1187, which isn't necessarily helpful to me within Content Controller. So if you bear with me just 1 second, I'm going to pull up Postman here and show you what changing that through Postman looks like. I will get that dragged over. And again, my mouse took a really inopportune time to go kaput. So here's Postman. I've got the new 4.1 collection in here. And so what I'm doing is I'm sending a put request to mbird.contentcontroller.com/API public v1 content courses. And then I'm passing in the identifier that is 1187 for that PDF. So I've maybe gotten this from another request, I've collected it, and I want to update it with my own ID. And so in the request body, I'm going to pass in my new PDF identifier. No, I don't need a dictionary at this moment. So I'm just going to say, so my own identifier, again, kind of using a silly example for simplicity's sake, is PDF underscore 123 ABC. And when I send that, hopefully I get a 200. And then if I refresh Content Controller, there we go. You see, automagically, my Content Controller overview PDF changed, which matched uh, my new course identifier. So if you've got maybe an Excel list or a listing of course IDs that you already use, maybe a good workflow would be to go in, send a GET request for all of your content items, and then pull those IDs, these old IDs, out of that GET request, iterate through those, and send that put request through the API endpoint that I was just using, if you've got your own course IDs, to make those substitutions. And so if you've got kind of maybe a project to remap all of your course identifiers, you can certainly do that through the API. The API can help with that. And if you need help with that, I would love to help with something like that. I like thinking about solving problems with the API. The only other thing that I wanted to show with respect to customized IDs is where all they show up. So I've been using content items as an example. Um, Customized IDs can be applied to equivalents. So here you've got your content controller overview, this multi-language equivalent. This is in English and Spanish. There's my equivalent identifier as 99. This can be applied to bundles. And so I've got my sports bundle here, and you can see my bundle ID is 47. So I can customize the IDs, the identifiers for bundles, and then for accounts themselves. So this Matt Chats demo or this Matt Chats portal example account, it's got an identifier. I need to back up one page of 328. And so the same workflow applies to accounts. If you want to kind of remap your own account ID to um, something that you're using, your own destination identifier, we can certainly help you with that as well. And so, yeah, that's really all I talk about. All I really had planned for the demo portion. I really hope this helps. I hope this inspired some ideas. I'm going to head back to the slideshow. There's a couple of other straggling items, one in particular that I did want to touch on before we got to questions. So I also want to give the team behind the scenes time to kind of segment this out for the recording purposes. But yeah, I also wanted to thank them for all their hard work behind the scenes. Hi guys, I really appreciate y'all. So yeah, I'm gonna navigate back here. I was on the demo portion, and so you may have noticed, many of you are operating on a version of Content Controller that's still on Content Controller 4.0. You're saying, "Oh, all this stuff that Matt was just showing me looks really neat. I would love to get a hold of it and get going with it as quickly as possible." We're happy to help with that, and we can get you up to Content Controller 4.1 as soon as you need to be. And so I know in the past, maybe some people have expressed concerns about upgrading, especially since this is a quote unquote major upgrade. We're introducing a couple of new features here with the Content Controller 4.1 release specifically. So this little slide is meant to kind of help ease or address those concerns. Typically, the way we handle upgrades is sort of a quote unquote on demand sort of way methodology or on demand process. You would reach out to us. You can reach out to your customer success manager. You can reach out to me or Michael or Joe and say, "Hey, yeah, we're ready to move over to 4.1. Let us know what to do to get started." So really, there's no action that would need to be taken on your end, um, aside from just reaching out to us and telling us that you're ready. We will work with our hosting team behind the scenes to get your content controller instance upgraded. In most cases, depending on kind of the size of your content controller instance, how many courses, how many learners you have. In most cases, I'd say upgrades take anywhere. They happen silently behind the scenes. They won't disrupt access to you as a CC admin or to your learners accessing content that's hosted there. And so this happens quietly in the background. The way that this typically works is we'll send you a note that says, "Hey, your upgrade is underway," and then anywhere between probably an hour and a half later, once it finishes up, we'll let you know that it's all done, and you can sign back into Content Controller, and you will see the new features there. You'll be running 4.1. And you can reach out to us to do this at any time. So again, there's no disruptions involved with this. There's no need to communicate out to, a potential downtime or, a potential off time or anything like that. So if you're interested in getting a hold of these features and playing with them, do reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you schedule these upgrades. If you want them, if you want us to help you schedule them for, maybe a defined period of time, we can put these on the books for any time that you like. So we can schedule these, in the early morning or in the evening, whenever works best for you. We're happy to work with you on that, and we'll keep you posted through, constant communication along the way. And so that I did want to note that, many of you joining today might still be on 4.0. You see this stuff, you say, "Oh, that looks great. I'm ready to get started as quickly as possible." So reach out to us and we'll be happy to help with that. And then here is, and I don't know if I can still count it on one hand, but uh, always feel free to reach out. And our motto historically has been "Ask us anything." We're serious about that. So if you have questions, if something doesn't get addressed during today's talk, reach out to me or to Michael. Reach out to the support address, support@rusticysoftware.com. And Michael, myself, Joe, or your customer support manager will always be happy to help. So I'm going to do my best and kind of magic here to summon Michael to see if maybe we had any questions that came up as I was talking through this, because I'm done pretty much with the demo portion and wanted to leave about 15 minutes or so to address questions as they came up. So, Michael, have you gotten anything come across the wire just yet?
I was summoned. Great job, Matt. That was, I think that went really well.
That's good. My summoning worked. Sometimes, maybe I've been talking it off into the ether.
Yeah, we have actually several questions. So we're gonna start at the top, and uh, so we got Gene. Gene Stone asked, "Are users alerted when new content is added to their portal?"
That's a great question. The way that it works right now is not right off the bat. Now you could get creative with the content controller webhooks feature. So I believe one of the events for a webhook is, whenever a content item gets added to an account or gets uploaded into your library, that could trigger an event that you could be listening for on your side of things. That could alert those folks when new content gets added, and that's a really great question. Is it, it might be a good way to put in an alert system saying, hey, you might want to sign into your content portal page. There's new content offerings, and so it's available now, and it's ready when you need it. So, and this kind of also harkens back to eliminating that step for having to go in and create a new dispatch package and send that along. Notifying someone, and letting them know that new content is added to their account. It's available within the portal whenever they need it. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Something we can think about adding potentially in the future. And you may be able to get away with utilizing webhooks to kind of be able to do something similar as well.
Yeah, good answer. I was going to preface, you hit it a little bit. You're going to hear us say something along the lines of not yet, but that's
Mm.
something in the future.
Right.
This being the MVP, this is just the start of what Portal looks like. And we're going to continually evolve it. So, one of those that we love suggestions, we fill up our product board. And so, anytime you've got a suggestion like that, let me or Matt know, submit a ticket or a base camp if you have a base camp. So, any of those, so if the answer is no right now, that doesn't mean it's always going to be no in the future.
Right. Yeah.
Next
Absolutely.
question from Jose says, so it seems there's no way to curate what content can be seen on the course portal side unless you manually add or remove the content on the content controller side.
Michael, I may need your help a little bit with this one, but
So
I think
Jose he just hit the nail on the head. Yes. Currently, the portal is a mirror of what the account looks like. Um, this is one of those that normally, if I saw this suggestion in a ticket, I might ask for maybe a use case. What do you see? Where do you see being able to have content in that's shared to the account but not necessarily available? Right now, it is simply a mirror. But again, that could change in the future.
so. And deactivated content wouldn't show in the portal. Is that right, Michael?
And again, can you distribute non-learning docs to content portals? Like if we want to distribute a newsletter to customers, can we do it through the portal? Uh, Again, I'm happy to take these, Matt.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, I was just gonna say, as far as non learning, you're kind of beholden to the learning standards
yeah,
that are available through that drop down menu. So it works the same as if you were just going out of an account directly. Um, those and we're creating what we call a dispatch package out of it. So you can host media content, MP4s or PDFs within your content controller site or your content controller instance, and then you can dispatch those through a learning standard that works best with your third party LMS. But right now we're kind of tied to learning standards based content and dispatch packages. Um, so that is also another good request for, maybe the future, if there's a way to output a .pdf file or potentially a
yeah,
.mp4 or something like that. But right now we're focused on those dispatch packages that are meant to be consumed within a third party LMS. But that's a
yeah.
great
I mean,
question.
there's nothing stopping you from developing something like that into a PDF and then letting an LMS bring that in as a SCORM file. It would require them to upload it, but again, I mean, there's your imagination is what's stopping you there. Matt, while I'm reading this one, I'm going to ask you to navigate back to your demo screen
Sure.
and go to the global content pool so we can make sure that our next one is shown. We've got a question from Catherine that says, can we search by course ID? And the answer is yes. Up in your little search area, if you type ID and colon, nope, lowercase ID, Matt,
Sorry about that.
it's going to change that little icon to a key, and now it's going to let you search by course ID. This is exact. So if you, like for instance, if you search for 11.8, you're not going to get anything. But if you search for 11.82, you're going to get that exact piece of content that is the custom parameters sample course, or 11.89. So if you hit go on that one,
I don't know what
did you
happened there.
type something wrong?
I might have introduced a space. Yeah. There we
There you
go.
go. So yes, you can search by ID, but it is exact. So make sure that you know what that ID is coming from your system. Great question.
Yep, and I should have covered that to begin with, but I'm thankful to Catherine for bringing that up. That was a good one. Thank you.
Um, Albert asked if we could share the Albert Lino, Matt, we know him well. Asked if we could share the 4.1 Postman collection, the updated one, and I've already told him that I can get it to him. Anybody that would like an updated Postman collection, just let us know, and we'll make sure we get that to you.
Yep,
Uh,
if you're accustomed to working with the API, those Postman collections can be super useful and can really provide you a nice shortcut for getting started with the API.
yeah.
So yeah, reach out to us anytime you need those, and we can get you straightened out.
We've
Anything
got
else, Michael?
we've got plenty.
Okay, great.
Natalie Nelson, this is actually in your world. Does the use of course IDs make a bulk of tasks easier?
Oh yeah, it certainly can. Since these IDs are basically exposed to the content controller API. Let's say I'm just going to give a quick example. So in the past, if I would needed to send a GET request to get details about this golf course, for example, I would need to go into the endpoint and pass in that 1189 course ID. I may not always know that my golf course is identified by 1189 right off the bat, but if I'm using custom content IDs, um, I should already know the identifier for my courses. And so if I've got a list of those that I want to pull the details for, that can kind of limit the number of requests that you need to send to the API. In the past, kind of looking back at comparing old workflows to what's available now with new ones, a workflow might have looked something like this. I would send a GET request to the API endpoint for all my courses. And basically, the response would contain all of the identifiers for all of my courses in my content library. I would then need to take those and then do what I needed to with those course IDs. And again, I didn't know what those course IDs were because Content Controller sort of arbitrarily assigned those. If I know them, I can maybe potentially cut out that first step where I have to send that GET request and then parse those identifiers because I don't know them. If I know my identifiers because I'm managing them separately and I have them matched up with what's in Content Controller, I can just pass that straight in and get going. So it can kind of help you cut down on certain tasks. Or maybe even certain blocks of scripting if you're using the API in this way. I hope that helps.
Yeah, good. Apparently, I need to turn my camera off for a second. I turned my camera off. I just got hit with a message in the background. I'm going to keep talking and then turn it back on when I'm told I can. Let's see. So I'm going to apologize because I may brutalize this name. Panava? Panav? Is there a way to view patch notes of this version and updates? The easy answer to this is we do have a release notes section on the site. I'm sure either myself or somebody can post that into the chat, and you can actually subscribe to that. But the release notes for every version of CC show up there.
Yeah, and while I've got my screen open, I can just it may help others the folks that asked this question. So our release notes are listed at the top of this content controller section. And so if you want to get a list of release notes here, here's all of our releases, all of our 4.0 releases. Here's where we release 4.1. And so if you want to get, certain improvements, bug fixes, things like that, our release notes page will show that. Now, if something that I often have that we get asked about somewhat frequently is if you want to get notified when there's a new maintenance release, you can choose to follow this and enter your email address. And whenever a new release is issued, you'll get an email with basically a digest of what's in this release notes section or patch notes. So that's a great question. I'm glad I kind of
Yeah,
had the opportunity to mention that.
we're just moving right along. Terry Murphy says, if you change a course ID, does that impact the historical records of completed courses under the former ID? For example, if we want to know if someone completed course A123, but it was called Z987, will the system make that connection?
Oh, that's a good question.
So,
Since we keep track of like completions and learner information based on the registration ID, which is something that you don't necessarily have access to change, this wouldn't necessarily impact reporting in any way. It won't impact learners, progress through the course or their access to the course in any way either. But the new course ID would surface in the reports once it's relaunched. Michael, did you have anything to add to that?
no, so that was one. I actually put notes in this one that I'd like to do just a little bit of testing just to confirm
Mhm.
everything, and then we can follow up with Terry just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because that one, it's not one I've run across yet. That's a really good question. So I wanted to make sure we covered it, but I do plan on. I have that on my list of follow ups.
Yep, I do want to see what it does with respect to you launched the golf course back in last year, and then
Yeah.
you relaunched it this year. So that's gonna, and if you're using a learner history report, for instance, that's gonna have two records for representing both of those launches. What happens if the course identifier changes during that time? I know our course identifier is listed in the learner history report, so a good test to run would be, does it change on the first launch across to the second launch when it did
Right.
change? Yep.
Next one. This is an easy answer, Matt. Does this version cost more than the current 4.0? Correct.
No, no, yeah, and that's a easy answer and a good one because this is all available to you with your current content controller, license. So all of this is just new functionality that is available to you out of the box. So there's no,
And
additional fees or anything like that.
Natalie says, "Yeehaw! I like it."
Yeah, I love
So,
delivering good news.
Sasha says, "Is there any kind of ID that can be used for a folder?"
Ooh, good question. Not currently.
So, not currently. I'm not sure how far in the book, how far into the product board that is. Something like that is, but no, not at this time. I know there are folder IDs when you're like Matt. If you click on a folder um,
There
on
are
your screen,
internal folder identifiers, but and I think the reason for this is that our public API doesn't necessarily have endpoints that are associated with folders or organization.
yeah,
There are a few things that you can do through certain requests that will automatically create a folder for you. So let's say you're importing content. You can pass in, I believe the property is called path. And so you would list home and then whatever your folder kind of path looks like to that endpoint, and we will automatically create um, that folder structure based on what came in the request. And so you can kind of programmatically create folders that way, but we don't have right now through the public API, we don't have a way to get and or manipulate folders currently.
all right, we're down to a minute. I don't want to cut anybody off, so we're gonna real quick answer some questions, and then if we've got any more lingering, then we'll do some follow up.
Yeah, I'm oh, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Albert says, can we add an icon to show newly added courses or equivalents in a bundle in Content Portal? He asked it twice. So this is, I believe that there is something coming for that. There's little green dots that are going to show up within Portal for new content that has been added, not necessarily specific to equivalents and or bundles, but within Content Portal as a whole. Uh, so just know that that is something that I've seen on there before. It's not something that it's in the portal right now.
Right.
Catherine says, another question on the course ID. Can we use the same course ID on all the language versions of the same course and on the equivalent? That's a good question.
That is a good question. So just to make sure we understand, so if I've got a Golf Explained English version and a Golf Explained Spanish version, I would need different identifiers for the different versions, basically the different translations of the course. But you're saying, would you be able to use the same ID or
Yeah.
potentially share IDs across this and the equivalent that they comprise or make up? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna take some homework
Catherine,
on
I'd
that.
love to, yeah, I'd love to do this one on some homework and get back to you with with a fully intact answer. And then the last one on here is Jose says, so when we generate the custom portal URL for an external user to access their content, it is recommended for them to bookmark it right. I am assuming the URL stays the same unless we reset it. And the answer to that is
That's right.
yes.
Yep.
This is going to be the link that they use to continually access it. This will not change unless you change that link.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's sort of why we warn you here. So resetting the portal URL may disrupt access. So an example of that would be like what you just alluded to. If they've got that bookmarked and you change it, it could cause problems there. And so if you were to regenerate that URL, you'd need to resend it out.
Yeah. All right. I think apparently my camera keeps bugging out. I'll turn off, turn back on. I think we're going to get kicked off here in just a second anyway. So I wanted to, as from everybody on the backside, I wanted to thank everybody. Comments are great. Um, this was uh, this was fantastic. I love talking to everybody, as I said earlier. Matt, you want to close us out?
Absolutely. Thanks again so much, everyone. Happy spring. I hope everybody has a safe and happy Easter season, and I appreciate everyone's time.